Power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this hour. I want to talk about something that came to light yesterday, and it's very serious indeed. So I strongly encourage you to stay with us this hour and understand the implications of a very, very serious issue. The Supreme Court has decided, as of yesterday, that now, if you don't state that you are invoking your Fifth Amendment before they read you your Miranda rights, your silence can and will be used against you. Folks, this is just too much. We are being set up so that anyone at any time can be found guilty of and for anything. I don't know if you realize the implication of this statement and what the Supreme Court has done. So we're going to spend a little time on this morning so that everyone is thoroughly understanding of the severity and the implications of this. Here's the way it works. If you're arrested for anything, the first thing that they must do is read you your Miranda rights. Your Miranda rights are the old thing that we all have been hearing since the days of Dragnet. Anything you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you can and say will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand these rights as they've been read to you? And you have to answer yes or no. Anything you say prior to that used to be that you could have that held back when you went to court, and they could say, well, you hadn't been read your Miranda rights, so you didn't realize you had the right to remain silent. It's a Fifth Amendment, I should say, protection against self-incrimination. So when the police got there, you went and made a statement, and later you got to your lawyer and he said, what kind of an idiot are you? You should have kept your mouth shut. That no longer applies. The implications of this are stunning and staggering, and I'm going to help you understand why. Now, based on this new ruling, you will see that that Miranda rule is invalidated and for all intents and purposes voided. Basically, if you don't announce and invoke your Fifth Amendment right prior to saying anything, that silence can be used against you as an admission of guilt. This is unconscionable. The court ruled that petitioner's Fifth Amendment claim, this is the guy who was petitioning the Supreme Court, fails because he did not expressly invoke the privilege against self-incrimination in response to the officer's question. When the officer said to him, what happened? Did you kill the guy? Did you shoot the guy? Did you punch the guy in the nose? At that point, what they're saying is that he should have invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. This is before they read him his Miranda rights. Here's the problem. And here's why this is terrifying. The idea that you now must claim your Fifth Amendment right to prevent self-incrimination essentially obviates the entire point of having the Miranda rule in the first place. And secondly, your right to remain silent is no longer there. In other words, it now requires that you must invoke your Fifth Amendment rights before they read you your Miranda clause. How are you supposed to know? How many Americans understand how to invoke the Fifth Amendment unless they listen to Lois Lerner from the IRS as she was grilled by Congress? How does an individual who's not a lawyer know that this magical phrase is required now? I mean, this is ridiculous. It's like you may as well have to say abracadabra before you actually answer a question. I mean, it is so absurd on its face. I'm not sure that most Americans who've never been in trouble with the law understand the implications of this. Because from the moment that police arrive at a scene, whether it's an automobile accident or whether it is a crime or whether it is you're a witness to a crime, everything that you say is then recorded or at least is memorized theoretically by the officer there so that they can then take those statements and when you're prosecuted later, use them against you. Now, this changes the entire tenor, tone, and nature of our judicial system. And it completely invalidates the intention of our founders that you had a right to remain silent, with the idea that by not speaking, you couldn't make a mistake and say something that would then be, your words could be taken out of context, or that in the heat of the moment you made a statement that you shouldn't have made. I mean, everyone has the right to be silent and not say something that can later on be used, especially I'll give you a perfect example. When a police officer is involved in a shooting, are you aware of the fact that they have a 24-hour cool-off period before they can be questioned about what transpired and what the facts were that involved them firing a shot? And the reason for that is because courts, psychologists, and everyone else know that when you have been involved in an altercation like that, your mind is a jumble. You're thinking about the fact that perhaps I just, took someone else's life. The implications of that from a moral and ethical and religious perspective are jumbled in your head. You're still got a high adrenaline running and pumping through your system. You haven't had a chance to think through the events. Everything is fuzzy. Everything is foggy. It's called the fog of war. So police officers are given a 24-hour window before they are required to explain their actions and provide a report as to what actually occurred. You, on the other hand, are not. When police show up at a scene where you've been involved in an altercation, you're asked immediately, what happened? Did you shoot the man? Did you shoot the woman? Did you beat the guy with a baseball bat? Now, they're really, most people immediately attempt to try to justify their actions when it's a self-defense situation. And they say, well, yeah, I hit the guy with a baseball bat, but he was coming at me with a knife. You just admitted what you did. Unfortunately, law enforcement generally doesn't really care what the circumstances were. And these days, criminals have greater protection than the victim. So the fact that he was charging you with a knife, that he had enough methamphetamine in him to keep an elephant awake for a week, has nothing to do with the fact that you've assaulted him. We're going to delve into this deeper because I have to tell you, I don't think anyone realizes the implications of this. This is going to change the nature of law enforcement going forward forever. We'll be back in just a second. You're listening to America's Voice Now.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington and West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
Most of us will agree that a toothbrush and toothpaste are very low-cost items when compared to major dental repair work. We just know that it's much less painful to maintain with good dental hygiene and checkups than let things go and see what happens. The same is true with vehicle maintenance. Following recommended fluid maintenance schedules and replacing filters before a problem develops is much more cost-efficient than dealing with a transmission or engine breakdown. Stop by or call Don's Auto Service to schedule the services recommended for your vehicle, 1618 Porter Wagner Boulevard, or 417-256-2752.
You know, once a person is arrested and police begin interrogating that individual, the Miranda warning comes out. I read it to you earlier, or I quoted it to you earlier. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to a lawyer. If you cannot afford one, anything you say can be used against you in a court, etc., etc., etc. If you decline your right to silence, and you begin to answer questions, then they can use that evidence against you in a court. It's an admission. You know, now, however, the concept is completely shifted. If you don't say, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination before or after the Miranda reading to you, they read it off of they carry a business card. And they carry a business card, by the way, because the court says that they have to read it exactly. You know, they can't mess it up. And if they do mess it up, then, your defense attorney could sit there and say, wow, he didn't read it right, and therefore my client didn't understand, and blah, blah, blah. So now, and for the record, everyone who's listening to me had better memorize this phrase. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Write it down. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. And the next phrase that you use is, I won't answer any questions until I have an attorney present. Why? I don't care if you're not guilty. I don't care if you haven't done it. Your point in doing this is to immediately put them on notice. Once you have said, I want an attorney, legally they are not allowed to ask you any more questions. They must end all opportunity or all attempts to interrogate you. That's the way that the rulings have gone down in the past. That's the court precedent. If you say, I want an attorney, they have to stop questioning you. Because any questions they ask from that point onward that you answer will not be able to be brought out in the case when they bring you to trial. By the way, this works for civil issues as well as criminal issues. And there are a lot of these quasi-criminal civil issues out there. You know, a DUI, as an example, is a quasi-criminal and civil charge. It's civil, but it carries criminal implication. Don't even get me started on that one. That would take us from now until tomorrow morning to finish. How do you have quasi-law? Anyway, here's the point. Going forward, the police and prosecutors and everyone else will take your silence as an admission of guilt. I'm going to predict something here, and that is that the next case, this is going to create all kinds of court battles going forward. Because what's going to happen is the next guy who tries to use this defense, they're going to say, well, you didn't invoke your Fifth Amendment right. And so we didn't have to read you your Miranda warning. Then it's going to take a court battle to decide whether or not the evidence should be allowed and all the rest of this. It'll all go back to the Supreme Court. You watch. But here's the real important part of this. What this is doing is setting it up so that they're teeing up the ability to have people easily convict themselves because they didn't know enough about the law to invoke a Fifth Amendment right. That, ladies and gentlemen, is criminal in its nature. Why would they do this? Well, I can hazard a couple of ideas and throw a couple of guesses out there. One, you've heard me say repeatedly that we now live in a police state, and the only reason that we don't acknowledge it as such is because the Ministry of Propaganda hasn't publicly stated so. But those of us who are in the know, those of us who are awake and aware, those of us who have our eyes open, who are paying attention to what's going on around us, it's very clear to us that we now live in a police state. And if it's not clear to anyone after the last 2 weeks of revelations about surveillance and monitoring and reading your email and capturing your phone information and all the rest of these other scandals, the IRS abuse of your rights to privacy, the health care bill where everything about your health care will be wide open to broad scrutiny by virtually everybody, except you, by the way. I mean, look, we're in a position and we're in a time where all of the Bill of Rights are under direct assault. And they're using the Supreme Court as an assault weapon to gun them down one at a time. That's the simple truth, folks. What this ruling does is change the very nature of the criminal law enforcement relationship. And what's more important is even non-criminals who don't, and criminals and non-criminals alike, who don't realize that this case was held or heard and found this way by the Supremes, are not even going to be aware of the fact that they've made a mistake that will cost them their future. If this isn't the topic of a significant level of discussion on a national scene over the course of the next month or two, I would not be surprised, but I would be appalled. Why? Because your pre-arrest silence is a right of every person. You have the right to not say something. You have the right to keep your mouth shut. You have the right to not speak when you're not sure of the facts yourself, or you're not sure of the way in which they're going to be used against you. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, Mike, I was reading a case on the computer here in front of me, and it talks about this, that he had been asked to come down to the police station. Well, I don't know if you've ever been asked by
your phone is so scratchy.
Okay.
You're gonna have to try back.
How's that?
No, it sounds like you're Darth Vader.
Okay, I'll try it back.
Okay. You see, now, for the record, by the way, and I will say one thing in this decision, the Supreme Court did come out and say that if someone declines to take the witness stand during their trial, now forget the arrest portion, now we're into the trial portion. This ruling has a number of implications, so I encourage people to go look it up. But if someone declines to take the witness stand during the trial, the prosecutor is not then allowed to say, well, he could have taken the stand in his own defense, and he didn't, so that tells us a bit about what his real motivation was, right? Because that's how they do it. They try to turn the fact that you didn't take the stand in your own defense to make you look guilty. So they did rule that he couldn't do that. That could not happen. Go ahead. Is this Glenn?
Yeah.
Okay, you're much better now. I don't know what that was.
I was reading about this. Salinas Gomez had been asked by the police to come down to the police station. Of course, they don't ever say, "Would you please?" They say, "Come with us." Even though you have the right to refuse to come until they tell you you're formally under custody.
Right.
They never tell you that. You know that as well as I do. You just automatically assume if the cop's there, you're under arrest. Most people do anyway.
Right. And until they say you're under arrest, you're not.
You're
not.
Go ahead. You're free to go. But anyway, he went down there, and he kept his mouth shut when he got there, but he never invoked his Fifth Amendment rights.
Right.
And so they held that he was, guilty. Now, admittedly, the guy might have been. I mean, they found shotgun shells.
It doesn't even matter at this point. What we're talking about is so fundamental to our constitutional rights and our natural law and our God-given rights of the ability of how you are perceived by the justice system and how the system can be allied against you. I don't care about guilt or innocence, and I don't care about Salinas' particular case. I only care about the implications of what this decision says going forward, right?
It's a Boston Tea Party thing, literally. It literally is.
Now, and by the way, for the record, this was a 5-4. This was a 5-4 ruling, and the issue is that this is going to be used now as new precedent that will carry forward through every court case, through every criminal case from now until doomsday. You see, it calls into question everything that has been in place for the last however long it's been since Miranda went through. I don't know, 30, 35 years. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but
back in the 60s, yeah.
Something like that, 40, 50 years ago maybe, right? So the point is this. It calls into question everything that everyone knows. We've all watched TV and heard them, utter the Miranda warning, right? Or read it off of a card. You have the right to remain silent, So here's the point. Your Fifth Amendment claim fails because you didn't expressly invoke that privilege in response to an officer's question. So going forward, the minute that the officer walks up to you now, if you have any hope of not having everything used against you, you've got to immediately say, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, and I will not make any statements without the presence of an attorney, and then say nothing more. Don't even say thank you when they open the door for you, because at that point, that's the only way in which you have actually preserved your right to remain silent. How many people are going to know that?
I think I would ask if I was under arrest. That way you at least force them to acknowledge it.
But you see, any way you go, you're automatically putting... This is a catch-22. You can't win. That's the problem with it.
You're in the vice. Yeah.
It's a catch-22. You can't win. And, it depends on what the circumstances are, obviously. If you've been involved in a fender bender and a police officer walks up, you've got to be intelligent enough to know that that's not the appropriate time for you to invoke a Fifth Amendment right. It's not a criminal issue. But you get the point. I mean, this is completely insane. And what it's doing is turning our entire legal system upside down and putting it in the hands of law enforcement as to how giving them another tool that they can beat the already beaten slave with. I'm telling you, this is going to have implications that roll through our entire justice system, if you want to call it that. I'm going to call it the injustice system, that will forever change the nature of crime and law. We'll be right back.
Yeah. Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. President Obama is just starting to speak at Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, Germany, about reducing the number of nuclear weapons in the world. Earlier, on our country's enduring ties to Europe.
Although the nature of the challenges we face have changed, the strength of our relationships, the enduring bonds based on common values and common ideals, very much remains.
That was after meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. State and local police in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, questioned New England Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez about a body found about a mile from his home. Dave Swithers owns a local business.
One of the police officers later said to us it looked like he'd been shot and dumped there.
There's no indication Hernandez is a suspect. Sports Illustrated reports police are linking the death to an SUV rented in his name. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Thanks to our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. You can reach Brian down there at 870-492-4030. It's located a half mile east of Walmart on 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My dear friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's located at number 2 Evans Arcade, and you can call her at 255-2253. My friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch opportunity. You can, from 11 till 2, and you can have salad and pizza, something tasty and something good for you. Our friends Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 293-0116. If you're considering doing any kind of remodeling, new or custom construction and or light commercial, give Bill a call and let him bid on your next project. Our friends Batteries at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue, 417-257-7799. They can be found at thebatterystation.com. Our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun, an outstanding opportunity with 400 firearms under glass. You can reach them at 417-256-3000, and they are located at westplainspawn.com. Located physically at Highway 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. And finally, the sponsor of our phone lines, Wits End Classic Barbershop, located on the square in West Plains. Best haircut you can get for $10, and a nice young man as well. Please visit and support our sponsors.
There's one man on this earth who really, truly gets it.
Who has done more damage to this nation? Edward Snowden or Barack Hussein Obama? Oh my God, Mark! I'm asking a question. Who has done more damage? And who has done more to undermine our national security, whether it's on the border or hollowing out the military? And I can give you 10 other examples. I'm sorry. I speak the truth.
Weeknights from 5 till 8, Mark Levin on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Weather sponsorships are now available on News Talk 107.1 The Point. Get more information, email info@diamondmediaradio.com for complete details.
From the Point Weather Center, for this morning, areas of fog, otherwise mostly sunny today. Slight chance for a thunderstorm, high 86. Partly cloudy tonight, low 64. Partly sunny tomorrow with a chance for a thunderstorm, high 88. Plenty of sunshine Friday and Saturday, high each day 90. I'm meteorologist Jim Rinaldi. For more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Out of 365 days a year, we celebrate holidays, anniversaries, and other important days. But there is one day you look forward to, your birthday. I wanna wish you a happy birthday. Ryan's Steakhouse of West Plains is proud to bring you the Birthday Club weekday mornings with Cooper & Company. Our daily winner receives one buffet and a drink to Ryan's. Just call your birthdays in weekday mornings with Cooper & Company at 255-0427. Brought to you by Ryan's and the Ozarks Best News Talk.
And happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha. Cha.
All right, so we're on law and civil liberties today. Actually, we're on saw and liver celebrities today because that's exactly how convoluted this is. You no longer have the right to remain silent unless you make a statement that you are invoking your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. So, what you have to recognize is that this changes everything from the idea that you are presumed innocent until you're proven guilty. Because now, based on this new thinking, the new math of the Supreme Court, you're not. You see, this is why I've said to you, and you've heard me say it 1,000 times, and I can't say it enough. The Supreme Court is not the final arbiter of your constitutional rights and liberties. Because they work for the government, and the government is the one who's then passing these legislative rulings that are used against you. And so you've got one hand claiming a right, and the other hand invoking the statement that, yes, they have that right. But, you know, that you can't unilaterally give yourself power. And that's exactly what they've done for the I don't know how manyth time. You see, the real problem here is that this is another in a long line of rulings by this Supreme Court, and others prior, by the way, that slowly but surely chip away at your ability to have the presumption of innocence at any point during a process, right? From the time that an event occurs to the time that you go to jail. I mean, you can't have... So let me ask you this. Is it acceptable that people who aren't schooled in the law and won't know about this will now have the presumption of guilt versus the presumption of innocence? Because that's really what it comes down to. And I'm going to ask you, as the listeners, how many of you would, first of all, even know that you can at any point in time say, and stop the questioning by saying, I will not make another statement without an attorney present, and they have to stop. How many of you even knew that? I'll bet money that the vast majority listening right now don't. But I can bet even more money that none of you, if I had not brought this out today, maybe some small minor percentage of people who pay attention to court blogs would have figured this or found this out. But I can tell you that the vast majority, almost without exception, would not have known that now you must go one step further in order to preserve your innocent until proven guilty position. This is insane, people, because the average person doesn't understand the implications of these types of things. And yet, our founders made it very clear to us that the law must be written so that common people understood it. You can't be guilty of a crime if you don't even know what you're doing is a crime. That's why, by the way, there are so many laws. It's the tidal wave effect, you know? It's snow them under with paperwork mentality. Snow them under with laws, they won't know which ones apply. Then we can pretty much pick and choose how we prosecute them and based on what. That, people, is an example of government enslavement of the individual, the subjects now, because we're no longer citizens. You see, when the presumption of innocence is gone, we are no longer citizens, we are subjects. And for all intents and purposes, look, the presumption of innocence has been gone effectively in our nation now for, I don't know, a long, long time. The injustice system no longer cares about justice. They are following an agenda that is outside the scope of what you or I would perceive to be justice. And that's a long-term, long-held fact. I mean, you don't have to look very hard and very far to see the results of how that has affected us over the course of the last, 30, 40, 50 years. What we have is now a system where the onus is now put on you as the individual not on the system to prove your innocence, but for the onus is put on you as the individual to state declaratively that you have invoked your Fifth Amendment right. And that is completely outside the scope of any jurisprudence that has ever been practiced in the United States of America, even before our Constitution. This is common law, folks, which precedes the Constitution. You cannot put the onus on the individual to declare their innocence and invoke a Fifth Amendment in order to protect that declaration. That's the whole point of the Constitution itself, is that it's supposed to protect you as the individual. It's supposed to protect your rights as an individual. You are a minority of one. That's the difference between a democracy and a republic. You know, a democracy, majority rules irrespective. 51% say it's okay to commit murder. It's now legal to commit murder. In a republic, 51% can rule that it's legal to commit murder. However, the rule of law says that the individual, the smallest minority, is protected from the decisions of the majority by this basic foundational rule of law. And the rule of law says murder is always illegal. You see, what's happening is we are migrating further and further and further. And I mean, at this point, you know, who remembers the old game, you know, take 1 or 2 or 3 giant steps, right? Mother May I think it was called. I don't know. That's a long time ago for me. But, you know, there was this old game we used to play where, you know, somebody would hide their eyes and, you know, Mother May I take 3 giant steps or whatever. You see, we are now, every step is a giant step. Every step is a leap forward in the loss of our constitutional liberties and preserved rights under common law, under constitutional law, and quite frankly, under the laws of nature. The law of nature, long before our founders ever even were born, the laws of nature at the inception of sentience in mankind, the laws and the rules of nature dictate that you have basic unalienable rights to defend yourself and your home and your family, that you have that you are innocent until there is true evidence of guilt. Today, that's gone. Today, all of that has evaporated away from us. And it's not evaporated away from us slowly like fog lifting in sunlight. It's evaporated away from us like someone turned on a giant blower fan and whoosh, it's just gone. The implications of this are so staggering that it will change everything about our society. In New York, they just passed a new legislative, or working to, they've submitted a new law before their House and Senate that makes it illegal for you to, in fact, annoying a police officer now is a felony, or it will be shortly. And the reason they did that, I think, is because the Supreme Court's ruled that you can film and videotape police officers during the course of duty. That's no longer, you know, they always tell you can't film a cop. Yes, you can. The Supreme Court says you can. And they say that while they are performing their duties as public servants, that they are operating within the public sphere, and therefore you can videotape whatever goes on in the public sphere. But now, New York State has figured out a way around it. They're now going to prosecute you under a felony for annoying a police officer. Well, what does annoying mean? You see, the term is vague, and it's meant that way on purpose. Because now, I mean, are you a fly on the end of his nose that's just annoying him? Or are you actually standing in the way of him accomplishing his duty? And because you could be standing across the street with a video camera, suddenly you're annoying the police officer, and now you're charged with a felony. And it makes it even worse, because now if you don't invoke your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, you're automatically guilty of a felony just for standing there with a camera. Do you see how this is all working hand in hand? Sometimes, folks, we have to step back from the close-knit vegetation of the forest, and we have to back up to the 50,000-foot view and look and see what's going on. And when we do that, we now have a better understanding of the overall landscape. This one is a landscape of utter desolation and destruction. We'll be back in just a minute.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington in West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
At Missouri State University West Plains, students are finding new beginnings and endless possibilities.
Hi, I'm Jared Foley, and I'm a graduate of Missouri State West Plains. The West Plains campus was a great choice for me because it was close to home, and I was able to use my A+ scholarship to cover all my tuition costs.
Call Missouri State West Plains today to find out how we can help you achieve your educational goals. Registration is going on now, 255-7255, or check us out on the web, wp.missouristate.edu.
If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center or call 417-256-1819.
This is Jose from Tijuana. I like the whole potato with the skin on and the fried in the grease that the tortilla chips are fried in. Ooh, muy bueno. Sorry, though, I am not really here, and you never heard of me. Gracias, amigos. And hombre, Mr. Coffee, he will have last word.
Join Cooper and Company weekday mornings 6 to 8 a.m. here on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
Okay, I would like for you guys to, you got 10 days before this concealed carry course is going to happen over at blackopsschoolofcombat.com. And so if you have a chance, get over to their website. It's blackops, OPS, schoolofcombat.com. And this is a website for Greg McLaughlin. He is a highly trained and skilled tactical pistol shooter and trainer. He's running a concealed carry course on the 29th of June, and it runs at 8 a.m. in the morning. It's held in West Plains. He's got a range physically there. $75 per person. It's 8 hours in length, and if you're short either a revolver or the automatic that's required under the law, he can help make that available to you, but you've got to give him a call in advance and arrange for that. It's 417-255-1612. That's 417-255-1612. Make sure that you give him a call and arrange that. Now, he also has another program. He'll hold classes 2 nights a week and break the class into 2 if somebody can't dedicate or designate a whole day to it. So that's a big help as well. And the other issue is that you need to make sure that when you get there, you ask him, or when you speak to him, you ask him about his new technique for clearing a double feed malfunction. It is going to change the nature of pistol craft in the United States of America, perhaps the world. And having been a tactical shooter and a trainer many years ago, I got to tell you, it's amazing what a fundamental difference this makes. So get a hold of Greg. His website is blackoppsschoolofcombat.com, and his phone number is 255-1612. He's got that class going off on the 29th. Just let him know that Mike sent you from America's Voice Now, so that he knows that you heard about this program here, because he's a friend of ours and a supporter of our program. SpringCreekBeef.com. That is SpringCreekBeef.com. They have an outstanding selection of beef that is 100% grass-fed from start to finish. Never do they feed them any kind of grain. There's no hormones, no antibiotics, no anything. This is beef like you would have eaten 50 years ago. And I have to tell you, it's excellent. I've had it myself. They have a brand new website over at springcreekbeef.com. In fact, we just built it for them. So, outstanding website, and they give you all the details on there about pricing and what kind of cuts are available and that kind of thing. They're located in Pottersville. They can ship across the United States, and so if you are not necessarily local, that doesn't preclude you from being able to buy this. Recently just got a test result back from a university that says that this beef is so good it is restaurant quality. So, and you know that's not what you get normally when you go to the store. So make sure that you get a chance to get over there and see Jane over at springcreekbeef.com. Make sure that you get a hold of Kevin over at the battery station, 257-7799. If you have been taking antidepressants, Kevin has a program over there that will help you purge that stuff out of your body. And, I'm strongly against any kind of use of antidepressants. I mean, I get it. There are a few people that technically need it under a medical scenario, but I got to tell you, this is so overprescribed in our society that it's embarrassing. And these antidepressants are what is making America completely apathetic to what's going on around us. So please do yourself a favor. Speak to your doctor first, but push very hard to get off of those things. And if you can, give Kevin a call down there at battery station 257-7799. Tell him Mike sent you down, and he asked you to. I asked you to contact him about his purge program, or it's like a cleansing program to get that stuff out of your system. It works amazingly well, and you'll feel a whole lot better for it. Our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance are ready to light up their brand new website. You can reach them at 870-492-4030. That's 870-492-4030. This brand new website will allow you to purchase products online. They have bulk food by 4 different providers, including Wise Foods, Noah's Pantry, Mountain House, and others. And they also have all kinds of alternative solar products and all kinds of gear that you really need to get a hold of. And so I encourage you to visit their website. Currently, their new website is going to you'll be able to go there through the old website, but you can go to ozarksurvivalgear.com. That's ozarksurvivalgear.com. Make sure that you get down there. We just built that website for them, and if you're in the market for a new website for your business, send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. I'll see if I can't help you out with that. Also, get a chance to see our friends down at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner. Tuesday night is family night. Kids under 12 eat free. Our friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction is an excellent fella. If you are trying to do any kind of residential, commercial, or industrial construction, you can get a hold of him at 293-0116. And we're going to take a call real quickly on our Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline and give you folks an opportunity to have your say on this new SCOTUS betrayal. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, the whole deal, Mike, on this thing, it seems like that they're not only changing the laws, they're changing the meaning of words, what words mean.
Well, that's verbicide, okay?
Yeah.
What they're doing is they change the definition of words so that the common person has no idea about what they are actually saying. And, they hide in plain sight, right? That's the goal. Hide words in plain sight that mean something other than what you thought they meant.
Well, I wanted to ask you, now I've been very patient over these last several weeks. I'd like to hear what you have to say, how the sheriffs tie into all of these things, all of these issues we're facing, because you did attend the convention and maybe have a perspective of the degree that the sheriff's authority can help us in these matters. And also, as a little side note, Webster County had their commissioner meeting on Monday, and I'd like to know if you heard anything about that. So I'll go offline to listen, but I definitely want to hear about how the sheriff ties into all this,
okay,
what they can do.
I appreciate that. We're very short on time. I've only got about 5 minutes left, and I don't know that I can cover the CSPOA position on that. And frankly, I don't want to speak for them. What I can tell you is that the gentlemen that I met up there were very constitutionally minded, to the idea that they look at their role as to say they can choose where and how and under what circumstances they should be making arrests for issues that may be law, but they and everyone else know under common sense concepts that there's no real reason to charge that person. Give you an example. I spoke to one law enforcement officer who mentioned that there was a woman who had left her child in a car and ran inside and bought something at a store within full view of the car. It was literally 10 feet away. And ran back out, and someone from one of the Child Protective Services had witnessed that and wanted to wrote it up as a charge and wanted to have the woman prosecuted for leaving the kid in the car. It's against the law in some states. The question for the sheriff's office was, do we prosecute this, or, knowing what the circumstances were, and that it was a 65-degree day and it wasn't really like the kid was sitting out there in 120-degree heat with the windows rolled up, is that a legitimate cause of action? And they could determine, under constitutional clear reasoning and logic, that no, it wasn't. I mean, you know, you don't just pursue the law just to say that you do. You have to use some common sense. And they declined to prosecute. And the Child Protective Services folks were pretty upset about it. Hey, guess what? Too bad. The woman didn't do something that really endangered the child. And to just say that she did because there's a law that says you can't do that, even when the effect isn't negative, is ridiculous. So, it is up to sheriffs to determine how and where and under what circumstances to prosecute. But here's the problem. That doesn't have any effect on what we're talking about here today. Because here's the real problem. Here's the profound mistake in this decision. If someone lacks education, if someone doesn't speak the language very well, what if someone has a problem with dyslexia? What if that person has a mental disability? You see, all of a sudden, you've got a whole new fleet of guilty people who really aren't guilty, only because they didn't know enough to say, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, and I will make no statements without the presence of my attorney. And folks, that's the new phrase. That's what you need to know, what you need to remember, and you will have an opportunity to be protected by utilizing that. Go ahead, caller, quickly.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I better call back because I was going to be on here for a couple, 3 minutes. So.
Okay, well, we've got about 1 minute left, so.
Okay. I'll probably call later on in the morning then.
All right. So the issue here is very simple. The opportunity for law enforcement to abrogate your rights has now been poured into concrete. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a tragedy. It's not only a tragedy, but it is unconscionable, unethical, immoral, unconstitutional, and illegal on its face. And I don't care how many guys in black robes say it's not. That is the simple truth. So, what you need to do is be creative enough to figure a way around, just like they do, to do a backdoor protection for yourself. And that is by using the following phrase. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, and I will make no statement without the presence of an attorney. Then, keep your mouth shut. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. You can find our Facebook page, even if you don't have a Facebook account, by simply going to by going to facebook.com/America's Voice Now. You can find this and every other show that we do up on YouTube. We post every show up there right after this broadcast. And you can find that by going to youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Please make sure that you educate those in your circle of influence with this important information, because today the rules have changed, and everybody needs to know about it.
We are the Ozarks' best news talk, KBMV Birch Tree.